So I'm recording this after having just watched the series finale of Samurai Jack, and I thought now was the perfect time to review and rank each of the season's 10 episodes. I'm combining two video ideas together for this one, but I feel that will allow me to review each episode on their own, while also reviewing the entire season in one video. So, without further ado, let's get started. Number 10. So we start off the countdown with episode 8, firmly at the bottom of the list. I'll start by saying I don't really think there were any bad episodes this season, and I think most matched my expectations. With that said, episode 8 was the only one to really disappoint me this season. I enjoyed it well enough, but couldn't really help but feel we could be spending time on something other than Ashley and Jack's awkward romantic escapades. I might have been fine with this episode if it were a bit earlier in the season, but it just blows my mind why they decided to place it 2 episodes before the finale. A rom-com episode. That's just so bizarre. I get that they were setting up Ashley and Jack so that their final outcome would be more emotional, but I think they could have developed their relationship a bit more organically as they prepared to face Aku, rather than through a series of misadventures that felt like unnecessary side stops. It's not to say the side stops were enjoyable. The Tiger guys were hilarious, and the prison portion of the episode, while overly long, was very much in the spirit of the show. But just because I enjoyed those parts doesn't mean I wasn't wanting the story to get along due to so little time left. The fact that this episode ends on a dragged out sex joke only heightens my feeling that we are wasting time. The ending song choice was hilarious though.
Everybody falls in love somehow.
Number 9. From here on out, all the episodes are good to outstanding. Episode 5 just has the unfortunate fate of not being up to the quality of the rest of the season. But don't be mistaken, this is a solid episode. The Scotsman portion of the episode was everything I would have wanted it to be. Of course he would have a literal army of doubters, and of course he would have them push him in his wheelchair onward into battle. His wrestling of Aku was enjoyable, and the fact that he was able to return as a younger version of himself was awesome. Ashley's slow face turn throughout the episode was also handled rather well. She may not have killed Jack at the end of episode 4, but her real turn around didn't really occur until Jack started to show her the evil of Aku and the good of everything else. I like the part where Ashley asked if Aku created the stars, and Jack just scoffs at her. His explanation for the stars is a nice scene. The battle that Ashley and Jack have against the kidnapped children and their kidnapper was a fun ride. It was nice to see that even after all these years, Jack would never intentionally harm an innocent. The cliffhanger for this episode finally gave us a better look at the samurai that had been stalking Jack, and left me wondering how the next episode was going to proceed. Speaking of which, number 8. Or as I like to call it, the journey through Nostalgiaville. If I'm going to be honest, the prior episode was probably stronger than this one, but I really don't care. Getting to see all these characters again after so many years was just so freaking satisfying. I don't know what appearance I like better, the kids from the rave or the return of the samurai. The rave song was incredibly catchy, and I love the fact that they incorporate Jack's old dance into it, but I also love seeing the samurai again, so it's really hard to choose. Coupling this with the fact that these cameos actually played a role in the story as Ashley completes her transformation after seeing all the good Jack has done and is now able to remind him of it when he needs it the most. Scaramouche is also shown to be alive during this episode and sets the events of the last few episodes in motion. His escapades throughout the episode were funny, and it was just surreal to hear someone utter a penis line in the show, especially after how seriously the show took itself this season. The one weak part of this episode for me is the final confrontation with Jack's ancestors. They are defeated rather easily. It's interesting to see Jack adhere to the samurai way so much, but after 5 episodes of build-up, the Spectre Samurai is gone in the blink of an eye. I just found that kind of disappointing. Nonetheless, this episode is pretty strong. Number 7. So, episode 1 started out pretty strong, but I was kind of worried while I was initially watching it. I was a little worried that this wasn't going to be the Samurai Jack I remembered. This episode is dark for a while. From Ashley's gruesome origins and training to all of Jack's hallucinations, there were some pretty disturbing moments throughout the episode. I like Dirk and Gritty, but I also love the old charm of Samurai Jack. I love the show's unique villains, beautiful backdrops, and unique humor. And I was a little worried I wasn't going to get that. And then this beautiful son of a bitch opened his mouth, and it felt like the show had never left me. Jack's fight with Scaramouche showed me that this was the show I remembered. I love the different powers and weapons Scaramouche had, and the fact that he has the most grating singing voice. I also enjoyed how long the battle was. It didn't overstay its welcome, but also wasn't cut short. It was the right length. It was an excellent one-on-one duel that made me fall in love with the series all over again. Couple this with Ashie's engaging origins, and this was a great way to start off the final season. Number 6. In episode 3, it was the first time we really got to see a lot of blood. I think this is probably the bloodiest episode of the entire season, if I'm not mistaken. Jack's recovery from the daughters of Aku attack in the prior episode was very engrossing, and the return of the wolf from the previous episode made for some interesting moments and imagery. The behavior of the daughters of Aku was also insightful in this episode. We see how they viewed one another and how little they know of the outside world. The section of the episode where they stare with childlike curiosity at the deer in the forest showed just how brainwashed, yet still kind of innocent they were. Which makes it a little sad when Jack has to kill most of them off. Jack's memory of his father gave good justification why he would kill humans. And he does give them a chance to leave, and they choose to stay, even though they're brainwashed. One of the only things I really dislike about this episode is how easily and quickly Jack kills the remaining doctors of Aku. I know this is a little bit more of a rejuvenated Jack, and he got the jump on some of them, but it seemed a little too much of a turnaround. He spent the last episode struggling against all of them, and now he's able to kill them with relative ease. I also felt that some of the fighting was a little awkward, especially in comparison to the glorious combat from the previous episode. Still, this episode doesn't get much to complain about, and it sets the stage for Ashie and Jack's relationship going forward. Number 5. To start this section off, I only have one thing to say. Why? Why would you kill the Guardian? He even broke his glasses. That complaint aside, this episode was a nice return to form after episode 8. We got some entertaining interactions between Aku and Scaramouche. Rest in peace. We also got more development of Ashie and Jack's relationship. We get to see that Jack really does care about Ashie, and he doesn't want her to just become a memory. Kind of ironic. But Ashie also understandably doesn't want to put up with that. They have some nice moments throughout the episode, which helps to make the closing minutes more impactful. We finally get to see Jack and Aku interact in the present day, and we get a nice little exchange that calls back to their various encounters. And then things get serious as we learn where Ashie came from and just how messed up her mother really was. We also get to see Aku's evil side after getting to enjoy his humoristic side earlier in this episode. Jack and Ashie have a nice battle, and then Aku turns Ashie into a monster, and she's kind of creepy in that form. Jack is forced to give up his sword, and we are left with a nice little cliffhanger that hypes us up for the series finale. Number 4. To call this episode rushed would be an understatement. We get 40 minutes worth of material crammed into a 22-minute episode. Everything moves at a breakneck pace, and tons of characters show up in a period of a few minutes. The moment the show has built up to happen so suddenly, you might be able to blink and miss it. Aku and Ashie's demise happen so quickly that you might not have time to register them before the show ends on an extremely bittersweet note. With all that said, however, oh my god, this episode was amazing. Look, it's the original opening. Look, it's the dog people. It's the fish people. It's the 300. It's the rave kids. The archers are riding the woolies. I forget who that is. It's the Scotsman and his daughters. Of course he names them all. Of course he offers one of them to Jack.
She's your type, lad.
Bros before hoes. The power of love. Okay, that's kind of cheesy. She could screech. Time portal. Yes. 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 Wait, what? Yes. Finally. Don't you dare disappear. Oh, they're getting married. Yeah, okay. What did I just say? And now I'm sad and happy. I'm sappy. This episode may have been way more rushed than I would have liked, but I still feel it excelled in pulling it off, and gave the series the ending it deserves. Rest in peace, Ashie. Rest in hell, Aku. Number 3. I think episode 7 had the best mix of comedy, action, spirituality, and character development of any episode of the final season. Ashley's fight with the army was both awesome and freaking hilarious. The flashback of Jack losing his sword provided us with some superb character moments from him and explained the current state of the series. The action in it was pretty entertaining, and it was nice to finally see Aku and Jack interact again, even if it was only in the past tense. Jack's journey through, I want to say, the spirit world had some good art and backdrops. His conversation with the Buddha was classic Samurai Jack humor and helped to bring an end to Jack's inner anger. Jack's transformation into his true form was satisfying to see after all these years. The only weak point of this episode for me is Ashley's battle with her mother. Like a lot of things this season, I felt that it was kinda rushed, and it caused us to miss out on a lot of potential internal strife for Ashi. The fight itself was pretty good, but it's over in an instant, and that particular plot point is wrapped up in a less than neat bow. Overall, though, this episode was superb, and Jack's final statement made me really hyped for the next episode. Only for it to drastically disappoint me, but that doesn't change my opinion on this episode. It was great. Number 2. The fight in episode 2 is probably my favorite fight of the entire series. We get to see Jack torn down into nothing but rags, and see him fighting tooth and nail for his survival. From the arrivals of the Daughters of Aku, every moment is filled with tension. Jack's new getup is lost within minutes, and he is unable to do any damage to his foes. He's forced to flee and hide, and we get to witness his most vulnerable moments and see his inner demon taunting him. The game of cat and mouse in the temple just adds to the thrills and suspense as Jack escapes each engagement by the skin of his teeth. We see the cunning tactics of the Daughters of Aku and the skill they've honed after several decades of training. All this culminates in a stellar tomb scene as Jack hides and hopes to God no one will find him. They do, however, eventually find him, and we get one last superb chase that ends with Jack's first human kill. Alone and wounded, Jack falls into the water below and leaves his foes behind in a heap of rubble. Every instant of this fight engaged me and had me at the edge of my seat. There is excellent pacing and build-up throughout it just to draw the viewer in. This is arguably the best Jack has ever been from a drama standpoint. Combine this with our hilarious first look at Aku for the season, and you get what could have been the best episode of the entire season. The fact that the final episode on this list beat it out for this honor is no slight on this one, and just shows how good this season really was. Number 1. So this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think episode 4 was the best episode of the entire last season of Samurai Jack. I know this episode might just mainly be a comedy episode meant to give viewers downtime after the wild ride that happened in the last few episodes, but that doesn't stop it from being the best episode of the entire season for me. Of all the episodes from the final season, this is the one that felt most like Samurai Jack. It uses the show's unique sense of humor and glorious art designs to their maximum extent. Once Ashi and Jack get inside the monster, nearly every frame is something that pleases the eye. I love the designs of nearly every creature within the Leviathan. I love the gorgeous artwork of everything Jack and Ashi traverse across as Jack tries to find a way out. When you combine this with the hilarious dynamic between Ashi and Jack in the episode, you get a 22-minute masterpiece. Seeing all of Jack's reactions as he has to put up with Ashi's shit and try to survive was extremely entertaining. Don't even get me started on the needle scene. I could watch that for hours. That's not all though, as we get to see Jack's continued inner turmoil as he struggles with the guilt of the deaths he caused and debates whether to abandon Ashi, understandably. It was really engaging stuff. We get a thrilling climax as Jack has to escape the skeleton monster that just looks awesome. His desperate attempt to escape was exhilarating, and to top it all off, we get Ashi's first step toward the light as we see there's some semblance of humanity in her. This episode had me laughing more than I have in a long time, but also provided good character development and interactions that carried it to the next level and makes this episode the best of the final season, in my opinion. With all of that said, I really love this season, and I'm just grateful that we actually got a conclusion to one of my all-time favorite shows. It was a great ride while it lasted, and now that it's all over, all I can say is this.
Back to the past and alright. Check, 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 check.